I was standing on the Jackson Station platform, holding Miles close to me, when I heard a familiar voice call my name. Amara! Amara Hayes, is that you? I turned around and froze. It was my father, Vernon. I hadn't seen him in almost 2 months, constantly coming up with excuses why I couldn't visit. I'd cut our phone calls short, citing tiredness and being too busy. Now he was standing right in front of me, and by the look on his face, I knew he saw everything. Welcome to Betty's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Now, let's jump back into my story. I'm sure you'll love it if you keep listening till the end. He saw my worn-out puffer coat with the pocket that had ripped open, the cheap boots with the thin soles I'd bought off the internet, Miles in a snowsuit that was clearly too small for him, my own gaunt face, the dark circles under my eyes, and my hands trembling from exhaustion and fear. "Dad," I managed, attempting a smile, but my lips betrayed me and just started shaking. "Why are you at the subway station?" my father asked, walking closer, his eyes scanning me with deep concern. "What about your car? I bought you that new Kia Forte for your birthday just last year. What happened to it?" "I sold it." I looked away. "I needed the cash." "For what?" My father's voice tightened. "Amara, what is going on? You look like you've been run ragged. Why aren't you answering my calls? And where is Darnell?" I felt the tears start to well up. For 2 months I had held it together. 2 months of silence, fear, complying with every demand, handing over money, enduring the insults, and living in constant dread. Now, looking into my father's eyes, I knew I couldn't do it anymore. "Dad, let's go somewhere private," I whispered. We walked into the Corner Bistro, a coffee shop near the station. My father sat Miles down at a table, ordered him an apple juice and a big cookie, then sat opposite me and took my hand. "Tell me," he said, "all of it." And I told him everything. I told him how, after Miles was born, my mother-in-law, Loretta Jenkins, started visiting more and more often. How at first it was caring advice, then it turned into demands, and finally, ultimatums. I explained how she found out that the 2-bedroom condo downtown, my grandmother's legacy, was fully in my name, and how she started demanding I sign the property over to Miles for his future. I had refused. My voice shook as I told him I'd explained it was my grandmother's inheritance, and I wanted to manage my own property. "And that's when it all started," I finished. My father listened in silence, only tightening his grip on my hand. "A week after I refused, you got jumped." I looked up at him. "Remember? Near your house that evening? You said it was just random vandalism." "I remember." My father's face went stone cold. "It wasn't random." The very next day, Loretta Jenkins came to my place. She sat in the armchair, sipped her tea, and said, "How's your daddy doing? Heard he got roughed up. You know, things happen these days, especially to older folks. Next time, it could be worse, much worse." She was smiling when she said it. My father went pale. I watched the muscles in his jaw clench, but he remained silent, letting me get it all out. I was scared, terrified, but I still refused to sign. "Then Darnell showed me a video," I continued. "It's me, supposedly screaming at Miles, shaking him, saying awful things. It's edited, Dad. They cut pieces from different moments, spliced them together, and removed the context, but it looks terrifying. They said they would send it to Child Protective Services, CPS, if I didn't sign the papers, that they would take Miles and prove I'm a bad mother." "Those monsters," my father said aloud. The first time he'd spoken the rage that was boiling inside him. "That's not all." I wiped away tears. Loretta used some contacts to get copies of my corporate documents and financial reports from my job, and she forged them. She made it look like I was stealing money from the company. The numbers are changed, the signatures are faked. It all looks exactly like me. She said if I didn't comply, she'd send those documents to my boss and the police. I would be locked up and Miles would be gone. My father closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. "Keep going." They demand my entire paycheck, every last dime. Darnell takes my bank card the day I get paid, pulls everything out, and hands it over to his mother. They leave Miles and me just $75 a week for food, transit, daycare, everything. I stop buying new clothes for myself. I wear what I have. I get Miles's clothes from cheap online outlets. Sometimes I borrow money from coworkers just to eat and feed my son. The car, they forced me to sell it too. They told me to sell it and give them the cash. I sold it for $8,000 even though it was worth $12,000. Loretta Jenkins took all of it. She said it was the first installment for their silence. Where is Darnell in all this? My father's voice was icy. He's completely on his mother's side. He says I should be grateful they haven't taken Miles and that I need to listen, or it'll be worse. He controls my phone and reads my messages. They strictly forbade me from telling anyone, especially you and Mom. They said if they found out I complained, next time you wouldn't just be assaulted. Loretta's brother, Preston, did time years ago. It was his people who jumped you. She told me straight out he can fix any problem. I covered my face with my hands. Everything I'd bottled up for 2 months poured out. The fear, the humiliation, the helplessness. I cried while my father gently stroked my arm, waiting for me to calm down. They still want the condo, I continued. They are pushing me to sign it over to Darnell, and he'll pass it to his mother. They say it's only fair, because I'm living with their son, that my grandmother's condo should be family property. I keep refusing, but they're pressing harder. Last week, Loretta's brother's people just happened to be standing outside Miles's daycare, just standing there, watching. It was a warning. They told me next time they'd walk right inside. Why didn't you tell me? My father gripped my hands tightly. Why didn't you tell me right away? I was scared, Dad. They hurt you once. I couldn't risk them doing it again. Or worse, hurting Mom or taking Miles. They have those forged documents, that video. They have people who won't stop at anything. I'm trapped. I don't know what to do. My father stood up, walked to the window, and stood in silence, looking out at the street. Miles was peacefully eating his cookie, not understanding a word. I stared at my father's back and felt that telling the story hadn't brought relief. The fear had only intensified. What now? What happens when Loretta Jenkins finds out I told him? My father returned to the table, sat down, and looked at me. In his eyes, I saw something unfamiliar, something cold, hard, and professional. Amara, he said calmly, there are some things you don't know about me. What do you mean? You know I served 20 years in the Army, but you don't know where exactly. I frowned. My father had never talked about the details of his service. He only said he served, retired, and started working as a security consultant. I was in Special Operations, Army Intelligence, 20 years of operational work, surveillance, recruitment, threat analysis, neutralizing targets. I know how to collect information people hide. I know how to find weak spots. I know how to plan operations so that the target doesn't even realize they've been trapped until it's too late. I stared at my father with my mouth open. Special Operations, Army Intelligence. My father, who had always seemed like an ordinary, quiet man. I didn't quit that line of work after retirement, he continued. I consult on security matters. I have connections in law enforcement in the agencies. I have people who will help if I ask, and I have skills that you don't forget. Dad, I don't understand. You will now. He leaned closer. Your mother-in-law and her ex-con brother think they're the smartest people in the room. They think they can blackmail, threaten, and intimidate. They chose the wrong family. They touched my daughter and my grandson. That was their biggest mistake. There was steel in his voice. I suddenly understood that the person sitting across from me wasn't just my father. This was a man who knew how to fight, truly fight, not with fists, but with intellect, connections, and experience. What are you going to do? I'm going to solve this problem so they never dare to think about you or Miles again, so that all their threats turn against them. But for that, I need time, and I need your help. What kind of help? You need to act completely normal. Keep handing over the money. Keep enduring the abuse. Don't show that you told me. You must not change your behavior at all. This is critical. They must be convinced you are broken, that you'll stay silent and obey. Do you understand? I nodded, though my insides were twisting with terror. How long? A few weeks, maybe a month. I need to gather intel, prepare the evidence, and plan every detail. We can't rush this. If we mess up, they'll destroy all the evidence and disappear. We have to act precisely, with no room for error. And if they find out I told you? They won't. We won't meet again. And we won't talk on the phone. We'll communicate through a secure messenger I'm going to install for you. The messages will delete automatically. There will be no trace on your phone. Darnell won't find a thing, even if he checks. Dad, I'm scared. I know, but you have to trust me. I won't let anyone hurt you. No one will touch you, Miles, or your mother, I promise. I've handled bigger things than some greedy mother-in-law and her criminal brother. Just hold on a little longer. Can you do that? I looked at Miles, who was smiling at me, his face smeared with cookie icing. I looked back at my father, whose eyes held absolute certainty, and I nodded. I can? Good girl. Now listen carefully. My father took out his phone, installed an app for me, explained how to use it, and taught me how to wipe the logs. He gave me a few pointers on how to handle Loretta and Darnell. The main thing is not to show that anything has changed. You're a broken, scared woman who's ready to do anything to protect her child. That's who you have to appear to be. But inside, remember, this is a game. A temporary game. It will be over soon. We walked out of the coffee shop. My father hugged me and kissed Miles on the top of his head. Hold tight, sweetie. I'm right here, even if you can't see me. I walked back toward the subway, holding my son's hand, and for the first time in 2 months, I felt not just fear, but hope. That same evening, sitting in the kitchen of his own condo, my father took out an old notebook and started writing down names, connections, and organizational charts. The plan for the operation was coming together in his head like a puzzle. 20 years in intelligence had taught him to see the full picture. Loretta Jenkins, 60 years old. Brother, Preston, 58 years old. 2 convictions for robbery and extortion. Released 3 years ago. Criminal ties maintained. Likely organized the assault. Darnell Jenkins, 35 years old. Weak-willed mama's boy, fully under his mother's control. High chance of recruitment, if pressured correctly. Amara's forged work documents. Need forensic analysis. Proof of forgery. The video with the child, also forensics. Confirm the montage. My father picked up his phone and dialed a number. Solomon, it's Vernon. Yeah, it's been a minute. Listen, I need help. Small, unofficial operation. Surveillance, recording, tech support. Can you do it? Excellent. We'll meet tomorrow and I'll give you the details. He hung up, dialed the next number, then another. By midnight, he had a team of 4 people. All former colleagues from his service days, all vetted, all ready to help unofficially. The work started the next day. Solomon, the former tech specialist, installed bugs in Loretta Jenkins's condo. It took 2 days of observation to figure out her schedule and 15 minutes of work while she was out shopping. The microphones were so small they couldn't be detected without specialized equipment. They transmitted sound to a recorder in the neighboring apartment, which my father was able to rent through a real estate contact. Andre, a former operative, began surveillance on Preston. Photos, video recordings, meetings. He needed to document all of Preston's movements and contacts. Within a week, a thick folder of material was sitting on Vernon's desk. Owen, now working for a private forensic firm, took on the analysis of the documents and the video. He dissected the fake financial reports in 2 days. Signatures were clearly forged, and the numbers were altered using a graphic editor. The signs of editing were obvious to an expert. The video with Miles was a classic montage. Clips were cut from different moments and spliced together. Owen wrote an official finding that could be used in court. Malcolm, whose police connections were especially useful, started gathering information on Preston's criminal past, convictions, contacts, current activities. It turned out Preston hadn't shed his old habits. He was implicated in several new extortion cases, but the evidence was thin. Vernon coordinated it all, analyzing the data and building the plan. After 2 weeks, he had the full picture. Loretta Jenkins met regularly with her brother. Their conversations, caught by the bugs, were damning. She openly discussed how to pressure Amara, how to force her to sign the condo over, and how to use the threats. Preston suggested ramping up the pressure, organizing another assault, so that little fool finally gets it. They laughed at Amara, called her a pushover, and discussed how they would split the cash from the condo sale. Vernon listened to these recordings, feeling a cold fury rise within him, but he kept his emotions in check. Emotions are the enemy of operational work. Cold calculation is required. The plan was divided into 4 phases. Phase 1, the marked money. Vernon used his old intelligence contacts to get access to specially marked bills. They were regular banknotes, but their serial numbers were logged in a database. If these bills were found on someone during a search, it would be direct evidence of a link. Amara was to hand over her next paycheck using this money. Loretta would take it, pass some to her brother, and then it would be a matter of technique. An anonymous tip to the police about Preston's extortion activities. A search warrant. The marked bills found in his apartment. Direct connection. Phase 2. The psychological trap. Loretta Jenkins needed to feel confident and drop her guard. Vernon decided to fake his own medical crisis. A heart attack. Hospitalization. Let her think that one of the witnesses would soon die, that the path was clear. This is when people start talking freely and acting bolder, and all their conversations would be recorded. Phase 3. Recruiting Darnell. Vernon understood that his son-in-law was the weak link. He wasn't a villain by nature, just weak-willed and terrified of his mother. Vernon needed to show him the truth, how he was being used, and offer an out. If Darnell flipped, gave testimony, and provided access to his mother's communication, the case was won. Phase 4. The final trap. Amara agrees to sign the condo over. A meeting is set at the real estate attorney's office. Loretta brings her brother's muscle for security. Operatives with a warrant and the full package of evidence would be waiting for them there. Vernon reread the plan, made adjustments, and finalized the details with the team. Everything had to run like clockwork. The execution began. Amara handed over her next paycheck, $1,500 in the marked bills. Darnell, as usual, took her bank card, withdrew every cent, and passed the money to his mother. Loretta Jenkins counted it, nodding with satisfaction. Good girl, Amara. See how well things go when you listen? Soon you'll sign the condo papers, and all your problems will be over. You'll live in peace. Amara remained silent, eyes downcast, playing the role of the broken woman. Inside, she was counting the days until the end of the nightmare. 3 days later, Vernon went to the hospital. Solomon arranged everything through a doctor contact, an official entry in his chart, a room, IV drips. The news quickly reached Loretta Jenkins through Darnell, who, as a caring son-in-law, called to ask about his father-in-law's health. Seriously? His heart? Loretta Jenkins slumped back on her sofa when she heard the news. Well, at his age, it's not surprising. Preston, who was sitting next to her, smirked. Maybe he'll die on his own, and we won't have to deal with him. One less problem, I guess. Loretta Jenkins lit a cigarette. The main thing is that Amara doesn't try to complain. Though who would she complain to? Her dad's in the hospital, her husband's on my side. I have the evidence. She's not going anywhere. The entire conversation was recorded. The bug in the condo worked flawlessly. Vernon, lying in his hospital bed, listened to the recording through headphones and nodded. Everything is going to plan. They're getting complacent. The following week, Malcolm, using his police contacts, arranged a routine check on Preston, an anonymous tip about possible involvement in extortion, a search warrant. The police arrived early in the morning. Preston opened the door in his boxers, groggy and aggressive. What the hell? Major Crimes Unit. Search warrant. The officer showed the document. Invite us in, please. The search lasted 2 hours. They found a lot, an unregistered firearm, a small quantity of drugs, but most importantly, the money. $1,500 neatly hidden in a coffee tin in the kitchen. The serial numbers were checked instantly against the database. Where did this money come from? The operative asked. Mine. I earned it, Preston snarled. Understood. These bills are linked to an active extortion case. You'll have to come downtown with us. Preston was taken away. Loretta Jenkins learned about it an hour later and was in a panic. She immediately called Darnell. Your brother Preston was arrested. They searched his place and they found something, she shouted. He mentioned the money I gave him. Your wife, did she rat us out? No, Mom. She doesn't know anything. She's at home. Quiet, Darnell replied. Check her phone immediately. If I find out she told anyone, I swear I will. Mom, calm down. I'll check. Darnell went home, took Amara's phone, and checked everything. Calls, texts, social media, nothing suspicious. The secure messenger Vernon had installed was hidden so well it was virtually undetectable unless you knew what you were looking for. It's clean, Darnell reported back. She hasn't called or texted anyone. Loretta Jenkins calmed down slightly, but her anxiety remained. Preston was under arrest. No charges had been officially filed yet, but the situation was serious. This was the moment Vernon chose to act through Darnell. Malcolm arranged a meeting through a therapist Darnell had once consulted. The therapist called him. Darnell Jenkins? Hello, do you remember me? We worked together a year ago. I have a request. A friend of mine wants to speak with you personally. It's important. It concerns your family. Darnell agreed to the meeting, thinking it was about some psychological issue. The meeting was set for a neutral coffee spot. Vernon arrived first and sat in a corner booth. When Darnell walked in and saw his father-in-law, he turned white. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in the hospital. Sit down. Vernon motioned to the chair. We need to talk. Darnell sat, clearly agitated. Listen to me carefully. Vernon placed a tablet on the table. I know everything. About the threats, the blackmail, the extortion, the forged documents, the edited video. Everything. And I have proof. He played a recording. Loretta Jenkins' voice. That fool thinks she can refuse me? I'll squeeze her so hard she'll sign that condo over on her knees. Preston's voice. We should scare her one more time so she knows this is serious. Darnell listened, his face growing paler and paler. That's not what you think. Shut up and keep listening. The next recording, Loretta Jenkins. Darnell is such a doormat. I tell him, do this, do that, and he runs right away. We broke Amara too. We'll get the condo soon, sell it, and split the money. Of course, we won't give Darnell anything. What does he need it for? He's useless anyway. Darnell covered his face with his hands. Do you realize your mother is using you? Vernon's voice grew harsh. You are destroying your own family, terrifying your wife, taking money from your son. For what? For a mother who laughs at you behind your back and plans to leave you with nothing? I thought it was for the family. What family? You've turned your wife into a terrified slave. You're robbing her of her own inheritance. You are an accomplice to extortion, threats, and document forgery. Do you understand? You're a criminal. Darnell sat silent, gripping his head. You have a choice. Vernon leaned closer. Either you keep following your mother and end up in the dock next to her, or you walk out of this right now, give testimony, and help us gather evidence. Then you have a chance to stay out of jail and try to fix at least something with your son. What do you want from me? Your text messages with your mother. All her messages discussing the plans, the threats, her brother's activities, access to any documents she's hiding, your testimony about everything that happened, and most importantly, you keep acting normal so she suspects nothing until the finale. And if I refuse? Then I hand everything I have to the police. Your mother goes to trial. Her brother is already arrested. The charges are coming, and you'll go with them for complicity. Amara will get a divorce and full custody of Miles, and you'll see your son through the glass at the detention center. Choose. Darnell stared at the table. Several minutes of silence, then quietly, I'll give you the messages and my testimony, but I don't want Amara to know how low I fell. She already knows, but if you help, there's a chance your son might forgive you one day. Maybe. Darnell nodded. That same evening, Vernon got full access to Loretta Jenkins's text messages. The messages were eloquent: plans to seize the condo, discussions with her brother, instructions to Darnell on controlling his wife. All of it was now documented. All that remained was the final strike. Loretta Jenkins was on edge. Her brother, Preston, had been arrested for a week. The detective was asking uncomfortable questions about the money's origin. She felt the case turning dangerous but couldn't figure out the leak. Amara was quiet, subdued, clearly broken. Darnell was obedient. Vernon was in the hospital, and judging by the latest updates, the doctor's prognosis wasn't good. "Maybe it's time to finalize the condo?" she asked Darnell at dinner. "This is dragging on. You said Amara was resisting?" "Yes, Mom, she's scared. She says it's Grandma's inheritance. She can't just give it away." "Tell her there's no more time to think. She needs to sign the papers this week. Preston's locked up. I need money for his lawyer. We'll sell the condo and get at least $350,000. That'll be enough for me." "What about me?" Darnell tried to keep his tone normal, but inside he was seething with self-hatred. "You'll be fine, don't worry. The main thing is to get Amara to sign. Threaten her. Say the daycare will find out about the video, or that we'll pay your father a visit in the hospital so she understands once and for all." Darnell nodded, recording the conversation on a recorder in his pocket and sending the file to Vernon via the secure channel. Vernon was discharged from the hospital 10 days later. The doctors supposedly permitted home recovery, but forbade any exertion. He deliberately looked weak and drawn when Darnell drove him home. Loretta Jenkins even sent a formal message wishing him health. In reality, during those 10 days, Vernon had coordinated the final stage of the operation. All materials were ready: recordings of conversations, text messages, Darnell's testimony, forensic analysis of the forged documents and video, and data on the marked bills found with Preston. All that was left was to stage the finale to catch Loretta Jenkins red-handed. Malcolm negotiated with the detective handling Preston's case, showing him some of the materials, enough to get him interested, but not revealing all the cards. The detective, an experienced man in his 50s, meticulously reviewed the tapes and documents. "Systemic extortion, threats, document forgery," he murmured, setting the papers down. "This is serious time if we prove everything, but we need a clean fix transaction. What do you propose?" "A sting operation," Vernon replied. "The victim agrees to sign the condo over. A meeting is set at the real estate attorney's office. Loretta Jenkins will arrive, probably with one of her people. The moment she demands the signature, thinking she's won, your people walk in with a warrant. All the evidence is on her hands, all her words are recorded. The attempt to seize the property is documented." The detective mused. "I'll need a prosecutor's sanction, and the attorney must be in the loop." "I'll find the right attorney. They'll agree to help if we explain the situation. When do you plan to do this?" "In 3 days." "Will you be ready?" "I will." They shook hands. The operation was on the final approach. Amara was in the kitchen when a message arrived from her father on the secure messenger. "Get ready. Tomorrow, tell Darnell you agree to sign the condo. The day after tomorrow, set the meeting with the attorney. It ends in 3 days. Hold tight." She took a deep breath. 3 days. Just 3 days until the end of this nightmare. Her hands shook as she deleted the message. It was terrifying, so terrifying she wanted to scream. But she trusted her father. He wouldn't let her down. That evening, when Darnell returned from work, she said quietly, "I agree. I'll sign the papers for the condo." Darnell froze, staring at her. "What?" "I can't live like this anymore. Let them take the condo. Just let them leave Miles and me in peace. I'm tired of being afraid, tired of starving. Let them have what they want." She spoke with such hopelessness that Darnell, who knew the truth, almost believed her. Amara was good at acting, or perhaps 2 months of fear had taught her that inflection of brokenness. "Are you serious?" He tried to sound normal, though he was inwardly clenching with shame. "Yes, call your mother. Tell her I'm ready. Tell her to set up the meeting with the attorney." Darnell went out onto the balcony and called Loretta Jenkins. She answered after the first ring. Well, Mom, Amara surrendered. She agrees to sign. A pause, then a triumphant laugh. I knew it. I knew that weakling wouldn't hold up. When does she suggest meeting the attorney? The day after tomorrow. Perfect. I'll organize everything. You make sure she doesn't change her mind. And tell her to bring the original condo documents. Everything needs to be ready to process right away. Okay, Mom. Loretta Jenkins hung up and immediately dialed another number. Vernon, listening through the bug in her condo, started recording. Hello, Solomon. It's Loretta. Listen, I need your help the day after tomorrow. Need you to come to a real estate attorney's office. Keep an eye on a transaction. My daughter-in-law is signing over the condo. I'm afraid she'll chicken out at the last minute. Will you be there? Just stand next to her so she knows we mean business. Yes, just like last time with her father. Excellent. I'll meet you at the office at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Vernon smirked. She was driving herself right into the trap. She was bringing a documented enforcer to the attorney's office to intimidate the victim. This was direct evidence of coercion. Couldn't have planned it better. He called the detective. The day after tomorrow, 2 p.m., Ms. Victoria's office, 23 Garden Street. Loretta Jenkins will come with an associate named Solomon, an ex-boxer, history of battery. He'll threaten my daughter to get her to sign. Your people need to enter the moment the documents are passed to the attorney. Got it. We'll be ready. The attorney, Ms. Victoria, was a strict but fair woman. When Vernon explained the situation and showed her the recordings and documents, she immediately agreed to help. I've been practicing for 20 years. I've seen it all, she said. But to so cynically take someone's inheritance through threats, what should I do? Act normal, accept the documents, start the paperwork, ask standard questions. The main thing is to document that your daughter is acting under duress. If Loretta Jenkins threatens her, or her associate starts applying psychological pressure, try to document it with words. Ask Amara if she really wants to sign the condo over, if there are any threats. Loretta won't be able to hold back. She'll start justifying herself or pushing harder. That's when your operatives come in. And if she stays quiet, she won't. I know these types. When they're close to victory, they become overconfident, arrogant. She will slip up. Very well. I'll help. All that remained was to wait for the appointed day. The morning of the meeting, Amara barely slept. Miles woke up early, demanding attention, but she could hardly focus. Her father sent a short message. All set. I'll be nearby in a car across the street from the office. Don't be afraid. You got this. Darnell was tense. He knew his mother was about to crash, but he was still worried. What if something goes wrong? What if she manages to wiggle out of it somehow? At 1:30, they drove to the attorney's office. Loretta Jenkins was waiting by the entrance. Beside her stood a massive guy with a shaved head and a scar on his cheek, Solomon the enforcer. He looked at Amara in a way that sent chills down her spine. Well, finally you came to your senses, Loretta Jenkins smiled smugly. Did you bring the documents? Yes. Amara showed the folder. Excellent. Let's go. They walked into the office. Ms. Victoria greeted them with a professional smile and offered them seats. The office was small, bright, with a heavy desk and shelves of files. A security camera, standard for a real estate attorney's office, was mounted in the corner. All right, Ms. Victoria opened her notepad. You wish to transfer the deed for your condo. Amara Hayes, do I understand correctly that the property belongs to you by right of inheritance? Yes, Amara answered softly. And you wish to transfer it to whom? My husband, Darnell Jenkins. Understood. Is this your voluntary decision? Amara hesitated. Loretta Jenkins instantly cut in. Of course it's voluntary. She wants the condo in her husband's name. That's normal for a family. I'm asking Amara Hayes, the attorney said sternly. Amara, is anyone forcing you to transfer this property? Are there any threats? No. Amara looked at the floor. I want to do this myself. Solomon in the corner coughed loudly, demonstratively. The hint was clear. Ms. Victoria looked closely at Amara, then at Loretta Jenkins, then at the enforcer. Very well. I need the documents. The deed, your license, the marriage certificate. Amara, her hands shaking, took out the folder and placed the documents on the table. The attorney began reviewing them, making notes. Loretta Jenkins nervously fumbled with her purse. The proximity of victory made her impatient. "Will this take much longer?" she finally snapped. "As long as the law requires," Ms. Victoria replied calmly. "Amara, do you understand that after this transfer you will lose all ownership rights to this condo?" "I understand." "And you are ready for that?" "Yes." "Good. Then I need you to read the text of the agreement and sign here, here, and here." She held out the document. Amara took the pen. Her hand trembled so hard she could barely hold it. Loretta Jenkins leaned closer, monitoring every move. Come on, don't drag it out," she hissed through her teeth. Amara made the first signature, the second. She raised the pen over the spot for the third signature and froze. "What is it?" Loretta Jenkins raised her voice. "Sign it." I don't know." Tears fell from Amara's eyes onto the paper. "Darn it!" Loretta Jenkins grabbed her arm. "Are you backing out after everything we discussed? Did you forget what happens if you refuse?" "Loretta Jenkins," the attorney said sharply, standing up, "please calm down. Amara Hayes has the right to change her mind at any time." "What right?" Loretta Jenkins wheeled around to the attorney. "She's backing out. She thinks she can just walk away?" Solomon got up from his chair, taking a menacing step toward the table, silent but threatening. "Young man, sit down," Ms. Victoria ordered, "or I will call security." "Sit down, Solomon." Loretta Jenkins tried to compose herself. "Amara, sweetheart, you know this is for your own good, for Miles. Sign it and everything will be fine. If you don't sign, remember our talk about the daycare? About CPS?" "Are you threatening her?" The attorney stood firm. "I'm not threatening, I'm explaining." Loretta Jenkins turned back to Amara. "I'm telling you for the last time, sign it, now." Just then the office door flew open. 3 men in plain clothes walked in, followed by the detective and 2 uniformed officers. "Loretta Jenkins." The detective pulled out his badge. "Major Crimes Unit. You are under arrest on suspicion of extortion, threats, and coercion to commit a transaction." He turned to the enforcer. "Solomon, you are also under arrest for complicity." Loretta Jenkins went white. "What? What extortion? I didn't do anything." "We have recordings of your conversations, text messages, and witness testimony." The detective nodded to the operatives. "Take them in." Solomon tried to bolt for the door, but he was restrained in a second. Loretta Jenkins thrashed and screamed, "This is a setup! Amara, tell them you wanted to sign the condo over yourself. Darnell, why are you quiet?" Darnell sat, head lowered. "Darnell!" She grabbed his shoulder. "Say something." "I gave testimony, Mom," he said quietly. "I told them everything about the threats, the blackmail, the forged documents, the assault on Grandpa. Everything." Loretta Jenkins recoiled as if struck. You betrayed me. You forced me to betray my own family." Darnell lifted his eyes. "I ruined my life because I was afraid to cross you, but no more. I won't be your puppet anymore." "Loretta Jenkins," the detective showed the warrant, "you are being charged under the state criminal code with extortion, committed by an organized group with the threat of violence. The sentence is 5 to 10 years. You have the right to remain silent." "This is a mistake. I didn't do anything. Amara, tell them." Amara slowly stood up, looking her mother-in-law straight in the eye. "You took 2 months of my life. You drove me to poverty. You scared me, humiliated me, took my last pennies, threatened my child, and ordered my father to be assaulted. You thought I would break forever, but you were wrong. I am not alone." Loretta Jenkins was led out in handcuffs. Solomon, too. Their shouts could be heard fading down the hallway. The detective approached Amara. "Amara Hayes, we need you to provide an official statement. Tell us everything that happened in detail. Are you ready to come to the precinct now?" "Yes." Amara nodded. "Good. Ms. Victoria, thank you for your cooperation. We will need your testimony as well." The attorney nodded. Amara walked out onto the street. Her father's car was parked across from the office. Vernon got out and embraced his daughter. She burst into tears, burying her face in his shoulder. "It's over," he whispered. "Everything is going to be all right now." The next 2 weeks were filled with interviews, forensics, and court procedures. Preston was charged with organizing the assault and extortion proven by the marked bills. He was convicted quickly. A repeat felony offense was an aggravating circumstance. 8 years in a maximum security prison, Loretta Jenkins was charged with 3 counts: extortion, document forgery, and making threats. The investigation lasted 1 month. Darnell gave detailed testimony, recounting every episode of the blackmail. Vernon provided the tapes that captured Loretta Jenkins's every word. Forensic analysis confirmed that Amara's financial documents had been falsified. The video with Miles was ruled a montage. The case against them collapsed. Amara's company management apologized, reinstated her position, and gave her a substantial raise as compensation for moral damages. Darnell was not charged criminally, thanks to his cooperation with the investigation. But Amara filed for divorce. The process was swift. Darnell didn't fight it, admitted his guilt, and agreed to all terms. Loretta Jenkins received 5 years probation with a restraining order banning her from approaching her former daughter-in-law or grandson within 300 feet. Her age, lack of prior convictions, and partial admission of guilt were factors. But most importantly, she lost everything. Her son, who refused to communicate with her, her grandson, whom she would never see again, and the money she spent on lawyers. She was forced to sell her condo to pay the legal fees. Amara stood on the courthouse steps when the verdict was delivered, feeling an enormous weight lifted from her shoulders. Her father was next to her, holding Miles in his arms. "Mommy, why are you crying?" the boy asked. "Happy tears, sweetie," she hugged her son. "Just happy tears." Darnell requested a meeting a week after the divorce. They met at the same coffee shop where Vernon had first talked to him. "I know you won't forgive me," he began, unable to look up. "I know I destroyed everything, but I want to try to fix what I still can. I want to be involved in Miles's life, see him, and help financially. I'm not asking to restore our relationship, just give me a chance to be a father to my son." Amara was silent for a long time, staring into her cup of cold coffee. "You caused me so much pain, Darnell. You stood by while your mother humiliated me. You controlled my phone, took my money, and threatened me. You chose your mother over me." "I know, and I'll live with that for the rest of my days. But Miles isn't to blame for your mistakes. He has a right to know his father. So I will agree to visits once a week on weekends, in the presence of my father. If you prove you've changed, that you can be a normal father without your mother's influence, then we'll see." "Thank you." Relief sounded in his voice. "I won't let you down." He stood up and offered his hand. Amara did not take it. "This isn't forgiveness, Darnell. This is a chance for Miles, not for you." He nodded and left. 6 months passed. Amara received a promotion at work. Her salary nearly doubled. She bought a new car, a small SUV, perfect for trips with her child. She moved into a new 3-bedroom apartment, bright and spacious, with a separate room for Miles. She rented out her grandmother's 2-bedroom condo for $1,800 a month to generate income. Life was slowly, step by step, getting better. Nightmares about her mother-in-law became less frequent. The fear receded. Amara started smiling again, making plans and dreaming. Her father often visited, playing with Miles and telling him stories. The boy adored his grandfather, constantly asking for interesting tales. "Grandpa, were you really a spy?" Miles asked one evening, sitting on Vernon's lap. "I was, sweetie." "Did you spy on people?" "Not exactly spying. I protected our country from bad guys, and I still protect people." "Who?" "Of course. I protect the most important thing I have, you and your mother." Miles hugged his grandfather. "You're the best grandpa in the world." Vernon looked at his daughter. She was standing in the kitchen, making dinner, humming a song. She was smiling, alive, free, and happy, just as he had always wanted to see her. Everything worked out. The operation was a success. The enemy was neutralized, the family was protected, and justice had prevailed. Just like the good old days of his service, except the stakes were personal, not national. "Dad, dinner's ready," Amara called. "Coming, soldier." Vernon lifted his grandson into his arms. "The commander calls us to the table." They sat down to dinner, the three of them. Grandma couldn't come. She was visiting a friend. Miles babbled about preschool, his new friends, and his teacher. Amara listened, serving him food and laughing. Vernon looked at them and thought that these moments were why he had needed to carry out the operation, for his daughter to laugh again, and for his grandson to grow up happy. After dinner, Miles fell asleep on the sofa, clutching a teddy bear. Amara covered him with a blanket and sat down next to her father. "Dad, I wanted to say thank you for everything. If it weren't for you, I never would have climbed out of that hole. Loretta Jenkins would have crushed me completely, taken the condo, the money, maybe even Miles." "You would have managed on your own," Vernon argued. "Just later. You're strong and smart. I just accelerated the process and ensured legal compliance." "No, Dad, I was broken. 2 months of fear had done its job. If it hadn't been for your intervention, I would have signed those papers out of desperation and exhaustion. I would have signed and lost everything." "But you didn't sign. You waited and trusted me. That takes strength, too." Amara hugged her father. "You taught me the most important thing. Never give up, even when it seems like there's no way out." "There's always a way out, if you don't drop your hands. Remember that, and pass it on to Miles when he grows up." They sat in silence, listening to the quiet breathing of the sleeping boy. It was getting dark outside. The city lights were coming on. Life was moving forward. A new, clean life, free from fear and threats. Vernon stood up, preparing to leave. "Good night, sweetheart." "Good night, Dad. And thank you again for just being you." He smiled, kissed her forehead, and left. Amara remained alone with her son in her condo. Her condo. No one could take it. No one could threaten her. She was free, finally free. A year had passed since Loretta Jenkins was led out of the attorney's office in handcuffs. A year of freedom, a year of new life, a year of healing from the nightmare that had seemed endless. Amara sat in her office. She now had a private space with a nameplate that read Head of Analytical Department on the door. The promotion had come 3 months after the trial ended. The management not only restored her reputation, but publicly apologized for not noticing the signs of blackmail sooner. Her salary had increased 2.5 times. Now she could not only provide everything Miles needed, but also put money away for the future. On her desk lay the lease agreement for the old condo. The tenants paid their $1,800 a month reliably, a good passive income. The new apartment was bigger, brighter, in a great neighborhood near a park. Miles had his own room filled with toys, books, and educational games. The boy was growing up happy, surrounded by the love of his mother and grandfather. Darnell continued to meet with his son every Saturday, at first in Vernon's presence, and then, when Amara was convinced he had genuinely changed, she allowed one-on-one visits. Darnell took Miles to the zoo, the movies, and bought him gifts. Most importantly, he talked to his son, took an interest in his life, and tried to make up for lost time. Amara saw that he was sincerely remorseful. It didn't mean she forgave him, but she accepted that people can make mistakes and try to correct them. Darnell did not communicate with his mother. No calls, no texts, no visits. Loretta Jenkins tried to reach out several times, sending letters demanding forgiveness and help, but he ignored her. He had chosen his son over his mother. Too late, but he had chosen him. On a Saturday, Amara, Miles, and her father went to the park. Spring was warm, and the trees were covered in new leaves. Tulips were blooming in the flower beds. Miles ran ahead, chasing pigeons and laughing. Vernon walked alongside his daughter, his hands in the pockets of his light jacket. "How are you doing, Dad?" Amara asked. "We haven't talked in a while." "I'm good. Lots of work, but that's fine. I feel needed." "You were always needed, especially by me." Vernon smiled. "You know, when I retired from intelligence, I thought all the operational work was behind me, that I'd be a consultant, sitting in an office, analyzing reports, but it turns out the most important operation was waiting for me, the operation to save my own daughter." And you handled it brilliantly, like a true professional. The stakes were high. If we'd failed, you would have lost everything. The condo, your freedom, maybe even Miles. I couldn't afford to make a mistake. And you weren't afraid that something would go wrong? Vernon paused. I was afraid, of course. I was afraid. But fear is normal. The key is not to let it control you. Use it as a catalyst to act more carefully, more thoughtfully. Fear makes you attentive if you know how to work with it. Miles ran back, breathless, his cheeks flushed. Grandpa, Mommy, look, I found a stick. Can I take it home? Of course, sweetie. Amara smiled. The boy ran off, brandishing his find. Vernon watched him. He's happy. That's the main thing. Kids need to grow up safe, without fear. You're giving him that. We're giving him that, Amara corrected. You're a big part of his life, too. A huge part. They walked to a bench and sat down. Miles played nearby, building something out of sticks and stones. Dad, I wanted to ask something. Amara turned to her father. You always spoke about your service in general terms, but never gave details. What exactly did you do in intelligence? What were the operations like? Vernon looked into the distance. Most of it is classified. My non-disclosure agreement is still active, but I can tell you a little. Not the details, but the general picture. The life of an operative isn't what you see in the movies. It's not car chases, shootouts, and flashy fights. It's primarily working with your head, gathering information, analysis, planning. You observe people for months, studying their habits, weaknesses, and connections. Then you set up the operation to get the necessary information or neutralize a threat. Everything has to be discreet, clean, without noise. Like with Loretta Jenkins, roughly? I used the same methods as before. Surveillance, wiretaps, recruitment. Except the enemy wasn't a foreign spy, but a greedy woman and her criminal brother. But the principles are the same. Gather evidence, lure them into a trap, neutralize. And were there dangerous moments, times when you feared for your life? Vernon was quiet for a moment. There were. A few times I almost blew an operation. Once I was nearly exposed in hostile territory. I had to hike out across the border at night, on foot, without papers. Another time, the team I was running was ambushed. 2 men died. The rest of us barely got out. That was a nightmare. You never talked about that. You didn't want to burden the family. Your mother knew the work was dangerous, but I hid the details. Why give her sleepless nights? She worried enough as it was. Amara took her father's hand. You're a hero, Dad. A real hero. For your country back then, and for us now. I was just doing my job. Doing it well because I loved it, and because I understood that people's safety depended on my work. Back then, millions of people in the country. Now, the 2 people most precious to me. Miles ran up, showing his construction of sticks. Grandpa, look, I built a fortress. An excellent fortress, Vernon picked up his grandson. A truly impregnable stronghold. Grandpa, will you tell me about being an operative? About how you caught the bad guys? Vernon exchanged a look with Amara. She nodded. I will, soldier, when you're a little older. It's a long story. But will you tell me a little bit today? Okay, listen. Once, I needed to find out where a dangerous man was hiding. He was very smart, constantly changing locations, and trusting no one. But he had one weakness. He loved rare books and collected them, and we used that. Miles listened, mouth wide open. Vernon told the story, simplifying it, removing the dangerous details, turning a real operation into a fascinating tale. Amara listened too, understanding that every word her father spoke was part of a life he had once kept secret. In the evening, after Miles was asleep, Amara sat on the balcony with a cup of tea. The city lights twinkled. Somewhere below, the road hummed, but here on the 7th floor, it was quiet and peaceful. She thought about the past year. So much had changed. A year ago, she was a hounded, terrified woman who feared every phone call and every knock at the door. She gave away her last dollars, endured humiliation, and lived in constant fear for herself and her son. It had felt like there was no way out, that she was trapped forever. Now, she was free, working in a good position, earning a decent salary, and raising her son with love and security. Loretta Jenkins could no longer harm her. The probation and restraining order kept her at bay. Darnell no longer controlled her every move, took her money, or read her messages. He was simply a father who saw his son once a week. Nothing more, nothing less. Amara realized that the main lesson she had taken from this story was never to give up. Even when it feels like you're at a dead end, that all paths are closed, there is always a way out. You just need to find the strength to ask for help, to trust those who can help. If she hadn't met her father at the subway that day, if she had kept silent, if she had continued to endure, how would it have ended? She would have signed the condo over. Loretta Jenkins would have sold it, taken the money, and left Amara and Miles with poverty and shattered hopes. Or even worse, taken her child through CPS, using the fake evidence. But she had spoken up, trusted her father, and he saved her. Her phone vibrated. A text from a coworker. "Morning meeting rescheduled to 10 a.m. Can you make it?" She replied, "Yes, no problem. Just a normal work text, a normal life. How good it felt for life to be normal again." A month later, an unexpected event occurred. She received a call from an unfamiliar number. "Amara Hayes, this is attorney Nicholas Sargent. I represent Loretta Jenkins." Amara stiffened. "I'm listening. What do you need?" "My client is requesting a meeting with you, a private meeting. She wants to talk, apologize, and explain some things." "No," Amara cut him off immediately. "I don't want to see her. We have a court-ordered restraining order." "The meeting will be in a neutral location with an attorney present, yours if you wish. No violation of the order. Loretta Jenkins has acknowledged her mistakes and is undergoing therapy. She is genuinely remorseful and wants to ask for your forgiveness." "I don't need her apologies." "Amara Hayes, I understand your feelings, but sometimes a face-to-face meeting helps close a painful chapter in life. Think about it. If you decide to agree, call me." He dictated the number and hung up. Amara sat looking at her phone. A meeting with Loretta Jenkins. Why? To hear more justifications, manipulations, and attempts to play the victim? That evening she told her father, "What do you think? Should I go or not?" Vernon thought for a moment. "That's your decision, but I can give you advice. If you go, it must be for you, not for her. If you need to look her in the eye and say everything you think, go. If you need to close this chapter completely, go. But if you're afraid she'll start manipulating, pressuring, or playing on your feelings again, don't go. You owe her nothing." "I'm not afraid of her anymore," Amara said. "It's strange, but I truly don't fear her. She no longer has power over me." "Then you decide." Amara thought for 3 days. Then she called the attorney. "I agree to the meeting, but only in the presence of my father, and for no more than 30 minutes. "Agreed." The meeting was set for the corner bistro. Amara arrived with her father and sat at a table by the window. Loretta Jenkins entered with her attorney. Amara hadn't seen her in a whole year and was startled by the change. Her mother-in-law looked old, truly old. Her hair was graying, her face was drawn, and her back was hunched. She looked every bit her 60 years, maybe more. She was dressed modestly, cheaply, without any of her former polish. They sat opposite each other. Loretta Jenkins looked at the table, not meeting Amara's eyes. "Hello, Amara," she said quietly. "Hello?" Amara kept her voice cold. "You wanted to talk. Please speak." Loretta Jenkins sighed. "I want to apologize for everything I did, for the threats, the blackmail, for turning your life into a hell. I was obsessed with greed. I wanted the money, the condo, and I didn't think about the consequences. I didn't think about the pain I was causing." "You thought about it perfectly fine," Amara countered. "You planned every step, organized the assault on my father, forged documents, and edited a video of my child. These were not spontaneous acts. They were a calculated system of blackmail." "I know. I realize it now. The therapist I'm working with helped me understand how toxic and manipulative I was, how I ruined the lives of my son, my grandson, and you. I lost everything. Darnell won't speak to me. I don't see Miles. The condo is sold. I have no money, no friends. I'm alone. And you want me to feel sorry for you? Amara's voice was steel. No, I'm not asking for pity. I deserve what I got. I just want you to know that I am sincerely remorseful. If I could go back in time, I would never have started any of this. Amara looked at her for a long time, silently, then said, "Do you know the most awful thing about your story? It's not that you tried to steal the condo, not the threats, and not the blackmail. It's that you destroyed a family. You turned your own son into a puppet, stripped him of his will, and forced him to betray his wife. You nearly deprived my son of his mother. You did everything to make 3 people, me, Darnell, and Miles, miserable. For what? For money? For a condo?" Loretta Jenkins was silent, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can't forgive you," Amara continued. "I went through 2 months of hell. I starved. I was afraid. I cried at night. I thought about ending my life. You drove me to the edge. And the only thing that saved me was my father, the man you ordered to be assaulted." Vernon sat next to her, calm and silent. His presence gave Amara strength. "But," Amara paused, "I release you. I don't forgive you, but I release you. You no longer have power over me. You no longer occupy space in my thoughts. You are the past, a painful, difficult past, but the past. I'm moving forward, building my life, raising my son, and you can live with your consequences." Loretta Jenkins covered her face with her hands, sobbing. "I don't deserve your kindness." "This isn't kindness. This is freedom, my freedom from you. Goodbye, Loretta Jenkins. We won't be seeing each other again." Amara stood up. Her father rose too. They walked out of the coffee shop, leaving her former mother-in-law and her attorney at the table. Outside, Amara took a deep breath. "How do you feel?" her father asked. "Light. Like a heavy burden has been lifted. I said everything I needed to say. I don't need anything else from her." "Good. You acted with dignity." They walked toward the car. Amara glanced back at the coffee shop, where the hunched figure of Loretta Jenkins was visible through the glass. Once, that woman had seemed all-powerful, terrifying, and invulnerable. Now, she was just a pathetic old woman paying the price for her greed. Life continued in its rhythm. Miles started elementary school. Amara chose a good school near home, with strong teachers and engaging after-school programs. The boy loved math and joined the chess club. His grandfather taught him to play, explaining that chess was like operational work. You had to plan several moves ahead and predict the enemy's actions. Darnell continued to meet with his son. Gradually, their relationship improved. Miles got used to having a father who came on Saturdays but lived separately. It became the new normal. The child didn't ask extra questions. He accepted the situation as it was. Amara sometimes encountered people at work who asked, "Why aren't you married? You're so beautiful, smart, and successful." She smiled and answered, "I'm happy just the way I am. I have my son, my father, and my work. I have enough." And it was true. She didn't feel the emptiness of loneliness. Maybe someday she would meet someone who would become a part of her life, or maybe not. She had learned to be happy on her own. Vernon continued consulting, helping his daughter and grandson, living a calm and measured life. Sometimes he received calls from former colleagues. He was invited to gatherings of Army intelligence veterans. He went, socialized, and reminisced about the old days. But the greatest joy in his life was his daughter and grandson. One evening, as the 3 of them, Amara, Vernon, and Miles, sat down to dinner, the boy suddenly asked, "Grandpa, will you finally tell me about being an operative? I'm big now. I'm 7. Vernon chuckled. 7 is a big age indeed. All right, I'll tell you, but not all at once, just a little at a time. It's a long story, for many evenings. Hooray! Miles bounced in his chair. Start right now. Okay, listen. Service in Army intelligence. starts with being checked out for a long time. They study your background, your family, your friends, and they test your resilience. Then they train you. Years of training, languages, tactics, surveillance techniques, psychology, self-defense. You have to be able to do everything, speak several languages, understand technology, and read people like an open book. Miles listened, eyes wide. What languages do you speak? 3 fluently, English, German, and French. A little Arabic and Chinese too, but I'm rusty there. In our work, languages are the key. Without them, you can't work in another country. You won't understand what people are saying. And you were in other countries? Many places, Europe, Asia, Africa. I worked under different cover stories, businessman, journalist, diplomat. The main thing was that no one was supposed to guess who I really was. It's like a spy in a movie. It's similar, but without the special effects. The real work of an operative is patience, attentiveness, and knowing how to wait. Sometimes you sit in a car for weeks, watching a target, writing down who visits them and where they go. It's boring, but necessary. And was there danger? Vernon glanced at Amara. She nodded. He could tell a little, but without excessive detail. There was. Once I was nearly exposed. I was working in one country, gathering information about a terrorist group. They figured out someone was tailing them and started checking. I had to make an emergency exit, abandon everything, and hide for a few days. I crossed the border at night, hiking through the mountains. It was tough, cold, and scary, but I managed. You're a hero, Grandpa. I was just doing my job, like many other people who protect our country. Soldiers, police officers, rescuers. They are all heroes every day. Amara listened to this conversation and thought how wonderful it was that Miles was growing up with a grandfather who taught him not just chess and math, but life. He taught him to be strong, responsible, and fair. He taught him not to give up, not to fear difficulties, and to protect the weak. After dinner, when Miles was asleep, Amara and her father sat in the kitchen drinking tea. Dad, thanks for the story. Miles loved it. He needs those kinds of stories. Boys need to grow up understanding that there are real values. Honor, duty, protecting loved ones. Not money, not power, but those things. You're raising him right. I worry sometimes that I spoil him, that I'm too soft. You're an excellent mother. Strictness and softness must be in balance. You love him, you care for him, but you also set boundaries. That's right. Amara poured tea. You know, sometimes I think, what if I hadn't met you at the subway that day? What if I had stayed silent and continued to suffer? No need to dwell on what might have been. You met me and you spoke up. That's the key. You weren't afraid to ask for help. Many women stay silent, afraid, ashamed, thinking they can handle it alone. And then it turns out to be too late. That's why it's important to talk about it. If any of your friends find themselves in a similar situation, you now know you must act, find help, and not stay silent. Silence is the aggressor's ally. Amara nodded. I'll remember that. They sat in silence, listening to the wind outside the window. The city went on with its life. Millions of people solved their problems, rejoiced, grieved, loved, and argued. Normal life. And Amara was grateful for that normality, for being able to sit peacefully at home, not fearing a knock at the door, for being able to plan the future without worrying about giving away her last dollars, for her son growing up happy, and for having her father nearby, who would always protect her. Several more months passed. One evening, Miles was doing homework, and Amara was making dinner when the phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Hello, Amara Hayes. This is Attorney Nicholas Sargent. We met a year ago. Amara tensed. I'm listening. I'm very sorry to deliver this news. Loretta Jenkins passed away last night. A heart attack. I'm calling because she left a letter. She asked me to give it to you if anything happened. Amara froze. She died? Yes. The funeral is the day after tomorrow, if you want to come. Although I understand you likely won't. No, I won't come. Can you email the letter to me? Of course, please dictate the address. Amara dictated it, said goodbye, and hung up, sitting down on a chair, trying to process the news. Loretta Jenkins was dead. The woman who had caused her so much pain no longer existed. She didn't feel joy, but there was no pity either, just emptiness. That chapter was finally closed. That evening, after Miles was asleep, she opened her email. The letter had arrived. She opened the attachment and began to read. Amara, if you are reading this letter, it means I am gone. I want you to know a few things. First, I was genuinely remorseful. Our meeting at the coffee shop was not an act. I realized how awful I had been. Greed blinded me. I lost my humanity. Second, I am proud that you did not break. You turned out to be stronger than I thought. You found a way out and protected yourself and your son. That deserves respect. Third, forgive Darnell. He became the way he was because of me. I raised him to be weak, dependent, and I didn't teach him to be a man. That is my fault. He is trying to change. Give him a chance. Fourth, tell Miles that his grandma loved him. In her own way, a wrong, toxic way, but she loved him. Please don't let him remember me as a monster. And finally, you deserve happiness. Don't be afraid to trust people again. Don't be afraid to open your heart. Not everyone is like me. There are good people. Your father is proof of that. Goodbye, Loretta. Amara finished reading the letter and closed her laptop. She sat for a long time, staring into the darkness outside the window. Then she said quietly, Goodbye, Loretta Jenkins. May you find peace. And at that moment, she felt the last thread connecting her to that nightmare break. Now, everything was truly over. 2 years later, Amara was standing in the kitchen of her new condo. They had moved to an even more spacious home, a 4-bedroom with a park view. Miles was in 3rd grade, an honor roll student and winner of math competitions. Darnell met with his son regularly. Their relationship had become warm. He had married a 2nd time and had another child. Amara was happy for him. Everyone deserved a second chance. Her father lived nearby and stopped by almost every day. He had turned 60, but was energetic, active, and full of life. He recently wrote a memoir about his time in intelligence, without the classified details, of course, but with a wealth of interesting stories. The book had become a bestseller. Today was a weekend. The whole family had gathered for lunch. Amara, Miles, Vernon, and Amara's mother. The table was set, smelling of delicious food. Outside, it was sunny spring. Grandpa! Miles pulled a medal from his backpack. Look, I won the chess tournament. Way to go, soldier. Vernon took the medal and examined it. I knew you could do it. Remember what I told you? Chess is mental training. The one who can think several moves ahead wins. I remember, and I thought the way you taught me. Amara looked at this scene and felt complete happiness. Her son was healthy, smart, and happy. Her father was nearby, wise, strong, and loving. Her life was filled with meaning, work, and love. The nightmare was long in the past. It had no power over the present. After lunch, they went for a walk in the park. Miles ran ahead. Grandpa and Mom walked slowly behind. Vernon put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. Are you happy? Yes, Dad, very happy. I'm glad. That's all I ever wanted, for you to be happy. They walked along the path. The sun shone through the leaves of the trees. Birds sang. Children laughed somewhere in the distance. A typical spring day, a typically happy life. Miles turned around. Grandpa! Mom! Come on, faster! I want to show you where the squirrel lives. They quickened their pace and caught up with the boy. The 3 of them walked further into the park, and Amara thought that this was true happiness. Not money, not condos, not careers, but these moments when you are with the people you love most, when the sun is shining, and when there is peace and stillness inside. She had been through hell, but had emerged from it. She hadn't broken. She had become stronger. She had learned not to be afraid to ask for help, not to be ashamed of weakness, and to trust her loved ones. And, most importantly, she had learned to forgive, not Loretta Jenkins, but herself. For enduring, for staying silent, for being afraid. Now she knew she was stronger than she thought, and those who would protect her would always be by her side. Life moved on, a beautiful life, full of hope, and there was so much good still to come. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch next.